Do you ever watch professional boxers and wonder how they string offense into defense in these effortless sort of sequences? Well, in this video, I'm going to explain how exactly they do that with this 3-axis flow. I'm going to explain the 3 different axes that you're going to be rotating around, how you get into them, out of them, and stay on them whilst throwing punches, how to string them together with defenses, and how to string together combinations as well. So the first axis is the one on the center line. Okay, this is where I'm upright, and I can basically rotate through this axis by pivoting on my back foot, turning my knee so it's pointing forwards, turning my hips. And then once I get to here, my shoulders are pointing forwards, I can turn a little bit extra. Okay, so I'm basically doing a full 180-degree turn with my shoulders here. I'm gonna turn all the way through like this. To the point where my foot is pointing forwards. I'm looking down my arm, my shoulders come to my chin. This movement from here to here is basically where everything in boxing comes from. Okay, so all of my shots come from that movement. Okay, I'm just staying dead on the center. I can slip, I can roll, I can use this same movement to string my offenses and defenses together. Now, most of the punches you throw and most of the work that you're doing in the ring is on that center line. But as I said, there's 3 different axes. We'll start with the lead. We're gonna drop our lead shoulder as we rotate. So we're still gonna pivot on the ball of your back foot, okay? But you're gonna drop this shoulder down like this. So this shoulder is now lower than my rear shoulder. Not by much, probably about that much, okay? Just drop it down. So my head was here on the center. I was gonna come a head width off. Okay, not to the point where I'm coming all the way over here like this. Kind of so my head is in line with my front knee like this. We don't wanna go any further because you fall off balance. I'll pivot my back foot so it's pointing forwards, and I can turn back here onto the center. Okay, so that's the difference between the center and the lead slot, is just dropping this shoulder as you rotate, foot's pointing forwards. And from here, I'm on a new axis. I can now throw hooks to the body while staying here. I'm not throwing the hook to the body and coming up to the center. I'm staying here and throwing the hook to the body, or I can throw an uppercut by just pivoting on this back foot, okay? Opening up the hips, turning the shoulders. And from here, I can throw these punches, okay? Well, not only can I throw these lead hand punches from this lead slot, I can also throw rear hand punches. So I can come here, I can throw a lead uppercut, and while staying on this angle, I can also throw a cross, okay? I didn't come up onto the center to do that. I stayed over here, pivoted on the back foot, there, and then there, okay? And that's how we can string combinations together. What you can't do, because of the angle of your shoulders, is throw a lead hook to the head, right? If I try to throw a lead hook to the head, it's always gonna come in some sort of shovel hook or uppercut motion, right? If I wanna throw a lead hook to the head from this position, I've gotta drop this shoulder back down as I come up to the top, right? So I can go into the lead slot with a rear hand punch, and I can come out of the lead slot with a lead hand punch, okay? Both to the head, right? I can't do that with body shots because of the angle at which my arms need to be. If I was trying to throw a body shot going into a lead slot, it just wouldn't make sense, okay? Because that arm needs to travel kind of perpendicular to the angle we are. So if I'm at this angle, my arm's gonna come over the top like that or underneath like this, right? I'm always rotating around my spine, okay? So if my arms are angled at weird positions, then they're not gonna get the force that they need for the actual punch, right? So I need to angle my body for the correct punches. So from the center then, we can go into the lead by just slipping and then throwing the punch, or we can throw and we can come out of it by just coming back to the center or throwing a hook to the head. We've also got the rear slot. So the rear slot is basically where I'm gonna hinge at this back hip and drop this rear shoulder slightly. So I'm coming here, all right? What happens when I do that is my head actually gets further away. So you wanna use this as sort of like a default position. I find that you're much further away when you're here than when you're here. When you're on the center like this, you're much more vulnerable because you're closer, your head's literally closer. But when you're here like this, you're much further away, you're harder to hit. So all I'm doing is I'm going from here, hinging this hip, and dropping this shoulder. So this shoulder is now higher, and there's like an angle in my shoulders. Keeping my chin down still, now I'm at a much more difficult position to punch. Okay, from here I can throw my jab, or I can throw my jab into it. I can throw lead hand shots into it. Okay, so I can throw a lead hook. I can't really throw a lead uppercut because it doesn't really work with the angle that you're going, but you can throw a lead hook, you can throw a jab, okay? And when you're here, this is where you can throw your rear arm bent arm shots. So you can turn your hand and throw on this new axis, this angle here, okay? Or you can go to the body, drop the arm, and twist through like this. Okay, I'm either turning my head or I'm keeping this hand up as I throw those punches, but I'm staying on this angle. Okay, so I'm either here, where I've pivoted, or I'm here, okay? I can go from there to there just by slipping, or I can roll under, hinge at the hips a little bit, come up with this side lower on the lead side, or I can go underneath, come up with this side lower when I'm on the rear side, or I can come back to the center. Now, you kind of want to avoid being on the center as much as possible unless you're throwing longer combinations or you're at longer range. When you're at long range, this is particularly when you're more on the center, but you can be slightly in the rear of this if you want to be a little bit further away. It just helps maintain the distance a little bit better. Then you can get your feet closer whilst keeping your head back, meaning that you can still almost land your punches, or you can at least gauge the distance and creep into range a little bit safer rather than just having your head on the center and then stepping forwards. Your head is already there to be hit when you feel like you're out of range. One common mistake that I see people make, and that I make myself sometimes as well, is coming too far outside your stance. All right, so your center of mass needs to stay within your stance. Your stance is this wide. You don't want to come further outside than this. So let's say I go into the rear side. Okay, I don't want to come too far over this way, otherwise I'll fall off balance. Same as going onto the lead side. I don't want to go too far over this way, because again, I'll fall off balance. So you want to stay inside, just taking your head off the center a little bit, okay? Remember, if you want to double up the same side punches, if I want to throw 2 lead hooks, for example, I've got to rotate my body to here, come back this way, turn back this way to like recock it, and then come back this way again. Same applies if I want this side. I'm throwing a double lead hook body. I'm going to turn back to here to throw it again. Or on the rear side, I'm going to throw it there, turn back, throw it there again. Okay, so you need to always rotate, get into that original position you were in to reload and fire the same side punch. Okay, so we're going to start on the center. On the center is where I'm most vulnerable to straight shots down the middle, okay? So this is where most of my punches are thrown, but if I can bait with the center, and then as they throw, I can come off, dropping this lead shoulder down, and I've created an opportunity. Okay, I'm on this lead side where I'm off the center, he's on the center, and there's an opening. Okay, from here I can land my lead hook body. Okay, if I wanted to roll under his next shot, then I have to come back to here before I come underneath. Right, go back. I'm gonna come, as I've slipped off, throwing the lead hook body, I'm still on this lead slot, I'm gonna turn back to here, and then I'm gonna go underneath. And then from here, I can throw my rear hook body, I could double it up and go to rear uppercut. I could come over the top, change the angle of my shoulders from being low on the rear side to being low on the lead side. So I'm coming from this side, coming over the top that way. It's also super effective, especially in the rear slot, using the shoulder and using blocks. So I can shoulder roll and I can twist. See how I'm staying on this axis. No matter what punch he throws, I'm using my shoulder and my rear hand to block the shot here. When I rotate this way, I'm still staying with this shoulder down. This shoulder's still lower. but I'm just rotating this way to block a punch here. This is where I'm next open, so I'm gonna use the shoulder to come up here, or I could even use a hand to come up here if I wanted to. The shoulder's much more useful because you're sort of already in this position where your shoulder's a little bit higher, because your elbows sort of sit in the same position. As you drop this way, this arm naturally drops, so it's quite hard to keep it up here. You can use this shoulder by just bringing it up and curling it over a little bit more for an extra sort of layer of defense. One more thing you can do, which is a little bit more advanced, but only really works for uppercuts and body shots, is if I'm in this rear side where this rear shoulder's lower, and I'm coming underneath here, I can throw a hook to the body as I'm coming upwards like this. Okay, and then I could cut them off here. Or I could throw an uppercut to the head if I wanted to. But that's basically where I'm bending the hips first, rotating the body, and then as I'm coming up to this part, pivot on the back foot. As I'm coming up, that's when I throw the shot. Okay, so it's not like you start throwing it here. You got to throw it as you're coming upwards, like you would throw a normal uppercut, but combined with a little dip of the hips first, and then you come up. This is just scratching the surface. We could just keep going on and on and on and about all these little things that you could do, but I just wanted to give a quick summary of you're either rotating here on the center, or you're on the lead side, where I can transition into the rear side. I can throw shots from here. I can throw shots coming onto the lead side, coming up onto the center. There's loads of different things you can do when you understand the center axis, the lead axis, and the rear axis. Okay, so I want you to take that into your training and try and just put some combinations together, put some defenses and offenses, link them all together to try and make some sequences so you start to understand and you can get your body to implement what we just talked about. If you watch all the greats, you'll see them implementing this 3-axis system. They're constantly switching between lead, rear, and center line to land some punches, and then they're off the center line. They're using the rolls, they're using the slips, and they're linking this all together in order to do so. If you found this video useful, then I made another useful video that should be linked on screen now called The New Fastest Way to Get Good at Boxing. So go give that one a watch, and I'll see you there.